Frontier Opening Bell. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning. I'm Temple Ashaju. Together with us this morning, we have Akitunde Suleiman from Greenwich Merchant Bank and, of course, Boson Omofai, Executive Editor at Frontier Africa Reports. Let's check what we have with the markets from yesterday, where the Frontier African Closing Index has Nigerian status as positive of 23 basis points. Ivory Coast, which is the BRVM stock exchange, was positive yesterday for the first time in a while by some 22 basis points. Egypt, the stock exchange there, was positive by 0.98%. Kenya was down yesterday by some 97 basis points. And South Africa, JSE, was positive by some 79 basis points. Now, looking at the stories that we have, the headlines from eastern parts of Africa says China offers Kenya some 27 billion shillings debt break until June 2021. And of course, the Kenyan Central Bank has now announced the new deadline of January the 29th on the National Payments System Strategy for the 5-year program that they are pushing out. Uganda extends filing deadline to January 2022 for December taxes, and arrival of Uganda's second Airbus now February 2nd on the internet shutdown that we had last week. Boson, I'm going to get you to weigh in on this. Let's look at the story about the debt break from China to Kenya. How significant is this move for that country?
It's very significant to the extent that 6 months, well, just a little bit, gives Kenya another reprieve of just 6 months, but 27 billion shillings is roughly quite some amount of money, by the way. Kenya has it all the way up to here right now in terms of its fiscal imbalance, so they can use additional 6 months, January to June, to try and sort things out. But then it's not over yet. As you know, when this debt and repayments and all that start coming through, then postponement or rearrangement does not really help you if your inflows on the fiscal side are not so strong enough to mitigate your deadlines for payments.
True. Of course, we know that their debt to GDP ratio is now 60%, but when you compare to a whole lot of other African countries, it's nothing actually comparable, because you have other African countries around 100 and 100 over. But let's look at the deadline that the Kenyan Central Bank has now given over the National Payment System Strategy. I think it was meant to be on the 22nd before, or the 20th, and now there's been a shift in terms of inputs and comments from stakeholders. How do you see stakeholders reacting to that or responding to that?
I think there'll be more. I guess the initial deadline must have been caught up when the New Year festivities. The earlier announcement came towards the end of the year. So some folks may not really likely be coming back to work, in the manner of speaking, try to get a sense of where the New Year is going until the second week, which was about last week. Today is the 21st, which is third week into the New Year. So I think the central bank under Njoroge must have thought that this was not enough, and they don't have enough industry-wide exposure and comments, so they will have to push it forward again. But I don't think January 29 is a very long way off, by the way. I guess that will be sometime end of next week.
And of course, Uganda Revenue Authority now asking taxpayers to file their returns for the December 2020 tax returns by the, I think that will now be, yes, that will now be 22nd. That's just a bit of a 2-day extension as well. I mean, we had 20th of January as the initial deadline before, but given the fact that there was election and we're pricing in a couple of other gaps that or lapses that we've seen in recent time, there's now this 2-day extension.
You understand? Yeah, you understand that, Temple, because internet was shut down before the elections. So am I going to, even if I'm sitting at home, if Akitunde is sitting at home, how does he file his returns if he can't use the internet? And of course, the whole atmosphere of the election was so repressive in so many ways. So would you be queuing up at the tax office to file your returns? I'm sure nobody would do that. The communications agency, which is like the NCC, announced day before yesterday that they are just restoring internet 5 days after elections again. So So everybody have to piggyback in a manner of speaking and look at the impact again, like the story you also have there, Temple, about the delay in the Airbus, because there was no communication with Europe. So social media was shut down, internet was shut down. You know, I said this 3 days ago or 4 days ago that look, this is going to hurt Uganda more than they think. You don't try to make political gains, then you shoot yourself in the foot just because you don't want some opposition to start sending text messages and whatever. It's bad business for everybody. How do you shut down internet in the whole country and your suppliers, your whoever is in your chain, whatever, can't reach you? Excuse me, in today's world, now.
Okay, now that's it's interesting actually, but I know government will say, look, this is relative. But let's look at what we have in the Western markets. Our Western headlines have Nigeria. Of course, UK holds a first post-Brexit international trade conference with Africa. Nigeria, all the African countries, Kenya, across the regions were present yesterday with Boris Johnson also in attendance. AfDB, AIB agreed to a joint action plan on investments in Africa. And of course, Access Bank unveils holdco structure, Pan-African action plan. Then you have FMN listing some 29 billion naira tranche A and B bond today, January the 21st. So then let me come to you with the UK Africa Brexit conference that held yesterday. I mean, we've been tracking this, and that event eventually held yesterday. Now, there were a couple of agreements also signed. I mean, how much of opportunity or potentials do you think these agreements, this conference of yesterday creates for Africans generally?
Yeah, I think it's one of those pivotal things that we actually saw in 2020. If you remember, the Boris Johnson skipped attending the World Economic Forum to be in that summit, and we struck about, I think, 6.5 billion pounds worth of deals as a last year. However, implementation will have been an issue because not long afterwards we saw a massive destruction in global economies. This year again, we've seen the UK cut down its aid budget, which we expect that it will obviously impact across every continent in where they are investing and giving aids to. And the disbursement as well will be an issue because we know the economy, the global economy is still battling with COVID. So there's definitely going to be some lag in terms of fulfillment of those obligations, whether it's in infrastructure or power and the likes. And if you look at the trade agreement that the UK has been having with most African countries, they had one with the South African Customs Union and another with Kenya. It wasn't all that different from what they've been doing while they were in Brexit. So I think I'll be a bit skeptical to say that we'll see a whole lot of difference at this point. I think it's too early to start looking for those differentials. Probably going down into 3-4 years from now, we might start seeing a different path at which the UK will trend. However, I think the risk factor to those investments and those commitments is still the impact of COVID across the globe. Nevertheless, I think the UK is trying to position, because if you look at total investment, FDI is coming into the African continent. The UK is about the 5th or the 6th. They are way behind China, I think France, US. So they need to reposition if they want to keep having solid international trade, and as well having partners in Africa, because a lot of African countries do not look at UK to get a lot of their input and even export. I think the best it's only South Africa that actually exports a large quantity in terms of gold and other minerals to the UK. Then Kenya does a bit of flour and tea as well. So aside that we UK doesn't really have, that partnership in Africa, but they need to now leverage on the free, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, because you see the EIB, the European Investment Bank as well, is trying to do something with Africa now, because that seems to be the niche across Africa now. Everybody needs to start rallying around to tap into that big potential that is going to take Africa to the next level. You see similarly as well. Access Bank is trying to leverage on the agreement also in expanding its Pan-African banking. So I think it is the fulcrum now of conversations across investment in Africa. What the UK needs to do now is plug in some FDIs into some strategic African states in which they can develop developmental infrastructure to position themselves on the opportunities that the agreement will bring. As well, they need to start setting up, some of their companies in African countries to produce, not just to bring the finished goods, but to produce. That will not just only help develop African nations, but it will help develop them in terms of returns that they get from such investment. So I think it's a good one for the UK, but I think it's too early. It's a little bit too early to start looking for differentials and pre-Brexit strategies and the post-Brexit strategy, because right now they themselves are still trying to find their footing. But it's a good win for Africa, and it's a good win for UK as well. So going deep into the Access Bank issue, you say Access Bank is now repositioning himself as a Pan-African bank. They're looking at going into 22 other countries and even going international in terms of outside Africa. That is a big plus to them. They're looking at going into consumer lending, which is a big opportunity, because if you look at financial penetration and you look at the gap in terms of lending in Nigeria is huge. There's a huge middle class that needs funding in terms of whether it's mortgage or just day-to-day living funding in terms of investment. Personally, there's a big opportunity there, and I'm sure Access Bank has seen that and they're tapping into it. A lot of banks are looking at going into that space because it's highly productive right now. You see, a lot of fintech companies are going to savings and loan services. The same thing with companies coming from abroad. You see a lot of them. We had Branch earlier on, and there are a couple others that are going into this space. Consumer lending is a big play, and we expect that will spoil in terms of top line and bottom line for Access Bank. Also, the insurance, it's no surprise that they're actually going into insurance, because if you look at the insurance contributes just below 1% of total GDP in Nigeria. That is a big space. That is a big opportunity. We know in Nigeria specifically, there's that disdain for insurance, because to sell insurance is quite difficult. Because you see that most Africans or most Nigerians are striving to even survive, talk less of now insuring whether it's their property or the rest. So those that can actually afford insurance are those very minute 1% that are above poverty line and living comfortably, at least to a large extent. So insurance is a big play for them, and it's not surprising that we've been seeing a lot of spike in insurance in the insurance sector on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We've been seeing a lot of moves, position taken by investors, because there's the anticipation that there will soon be some consolidation and some acquisition of those insurance companies across the Nigerian market.
Thank you so much, Akintunde. Looks like you've actually said it all. You've hit the nail at the cap there. And Bosin, I'm not sure you have anything else to add to it. Should we just move on to the Southern African markets?
Just to complement a few things of what Akintunde said there, I think with the big banks in Nigeria, speaking to the Holdco and whatever by Access Bank, I think coming through with this is two-pronged. It will help the insurance sector grow, where you have the big banks that already have the deposits and they have the customers. I think it's coming up late in the day for them to realize that they could actually tie insurance to the bank accounts of customers. And I'm wondering why it's taking 1,000 years or more for them to realize that I have an account with whichever bank or so, just tie an insurance package to it for me. And it's easy for you to just take from this account into that account. Send me an insurance package, right? If you just do it, so that the traditional insurance companies will either wake up, they either shape up, or they shape out of the business. That's on one side. The Pan-African footprint is very big, and I'm happy that Nigerian banks are trying to be at the forefront of this. EcoBank is also positioned, First Bank is positioned, I'm sure UBA is also positioned. The financial services industry will be the big player. In fact, they are the whole center, the nucleus of the entire AFCFTA. There's nothing you can do with trade or trade finance or trade facility between buyers and sellers, between traders without the banks. That's on the other side. The whole issue around Africa and UK, look, I'm not so particularly happy with the United Kingdom. I'm not a fan of Britain or UK as far as their relationship with their former colonies in Africa is concerned. France is a whole lot better with the Francophone countries in the manner of helping them to get things done out there. How many UK companies have set up? So, as Akitude said, they need to do a whole lot more. Britain is not that kind of the handmaiden that you think Africa should have. And with everything they've taken from, look at the UK today, and many of the, where's UACN today, which was a UK company, John Holt, with the exception of maybe Unilever. Most of the companies they came with here have gone off the radar. So the Chinese came here, the Indians and the Pakistani came into the textile sector and whatever, and the British were nowhere to be found. These companies are gone. John Holt, for example, where are they? Do you get my point? But look at how the Europeans, look at Heineken's in Nigerian breweries, Diageo in from Ireland, in Guinness, and Nestle from Switzerland. Look at how they're moving on. Where's Cadbury today? We all know the story about Cadbury. So the UK needs to do a whole lot more as far as Africa is concerned. Thank you.
Right. And let's hope at the end of the day, they will be able to at least increase the two-way trade between Africa and the UK beyond the $46 billion that we have right now, because China is actually $208 billion. Let's touch on what we have in the Southern African space, where, of course, inflation is key for us here. SA headline inflation slows to 3.1% year-on-year in December 2020. Nedbank is saying that the lockdown in level 3 at this point will hold inflation flat for the next few months. Naspers helped agri-tech startup aerobics raise some 253 million rands, and Sibanye-Stillwater beats 2020 platinum production guidance, which was by 9%. Akintunde, what have you got to say about the South African headline inflation for 2020? It was average of 3.3%. That's like the lowest in the long time at this point. What do you make of that development in South Africa?
I mean, it's joy for a lot of countries to see the inflation rates slow, with the exception of America that is hoping it goes to 2%. So I think it's a good thing for the South African economy, but they have a lot of things to battle with. I mean, they are still in lockdown. They are going through a very difficult time in terms of the impact of Corona on their economy. They've been in an extended recession. Probably we'll soon start seeing it as a depression, but it's been there quarter on quarter for a while. So I think they need to find a way to tame down the spread and the impact of COVID amongst citizens, in order so they can reopen this economy and they can actually start developing their GDP and growing their numbers. I do not think it's something to be celebrated to say that the lockdown is going to hold inflation flat for a while. No one wants to be in a lockdown. No country wants to be in a lockdown. So it's going to be great for them to actually open the economy to see how they can grow the economy and generally the sub-Saharan Africa, as well as curtail inflation. Lockdown should not be a strategy and should not be a methodology on curtailing inflation.
All right. Bosun, this has been the second, the lowest inflation since 2004, 16 years or thereabouts, and that will be the second lowest since 1969.
For inflation, for South Africa, right?
Yes, South Africa.
I'm not. As Akitude said, Nedbank just gave their own outlook for how many months it's going to be ahead. It's not a strategy, as you know. Lockdown is not news. It was 2 days ago, I guess we spoke about Heineken cutting about 7% of the workforce. So that's no good news, even if it's just one individual that is sent home from the factory line. So it's no good news at all. It shows things are really, really wrong. So to my mind, I think things just have to be a whole lot better. But if you ask me, I think one or two good news in the Southern African space is the Sibanye-Stillwater. It shows the platinum prices has been around 2,000, close to $2,000. Production now up by 9% last year. That was all good news. Last year was good news for the main folks within the base metals industry. So I think they had a rally. I'm sure this is likely going to continue in the new year. Despite the second wave, I think somehow as the vaccines now at our doorstep, we'll be able to get a bit of a hang of it. Mauritius is also good in terms of joining the Bloomberg AfDB Africa Bond Index. That's good news. I think yesterday, I think you touched on yesterday on the MSCI frontier market for in which yes, for Kenya, in which the weighting is now much higher. I think we're doing a little bit better. I think that's commendable for a number of African countries.
Okay, so the news about Mauritius and that of Morocco are actually the same thing. Morocco, of course, that's in the next headline that we have on the North African markets, and this should actually lead us to the North African markets, where, of course, Morocco now also has joined the Bloomberg's AfDB African Bond Indices. Bosun said how, explained already, how that will shape the tracking of performance of these bonds and, of course, secure instruments that we have listed on this index. But let's look at how UK is now backing Bombadier's with Bombadier's monorail project with some 1.7 billion pounds rather. Of course, we have vaccines for Africans now to pay some $3 to $10 per dose. 270 million shots going forward. Akintunde, you are not too pleased with the lockdown that we have in South Africa. You think that with the fact that the price of vaccine is now in the range of $3 to $10 per dose, that will help to quickly reduce the lockdown levels across Africa?
I was speaking with a colleague sometimes yesterday, and I think the vaccines are still quite expensive. Looking at the poverty line and the standard of living, or will I say the per capita income in African nations, how many Africans can actually afford this? To be very candid, a lot of African nations are welfareists and they're socialist in a form. So I think it backs down to the government to a very large extent to find a way to subsidize, this vaccine, so a lot of people can get vaccinated. If we're going to encourage people to actually get this, we have to find a way to reduce the prices at to a very substantial level. So it has to be subsidized to a very deep level, because a lot of Africans cannot actually afford this. I will bring it home in Nigeria. How many Nigerians will actually cough out $3 would be about I think roughly 1,000 naira today, or no, about 1,500. And a lot of people do not make that on a daily basis. I'm very certain of that. A lot of people do not make that on a daily basis. So for a lot of people to get paracetamol for just a mere headache, it's a challenge. So I think we need to find a way to actually subsidize this. COVID is one way to do this. If the coalition can come and find a way to subsidize this for a lot of Africa, a lot of Nigerians, and the African Union as well formed a coalition as well to deal with COVID. If there can be some funding to quell the pain and sting on Africans on acquiring the vaccine and getting vaccinated, I think we should show that line. Otherwise, we would see a lot of persons that will not get vaccinated. They will keep living with it, and if they don't get this, it means we'll be living with this longer than expected. So I guess that's me.
Okay, Bosun, you want to make an editorial pick quickly before we shut down? Your audio seems muted, Bosun.
Sorry, I think Akintunde made a very valid point about subsidizing this. If it's a single dose that is effective, I think that would be good. I'm not sure in Africa we can afford 2 dosage. So I think there are about 3 options: Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer. And I think the most expensive is the Johnson & Johnson, which is a single dose, but it's $10. That's close to about 5,000 naira or so, which of course the Nigerian government is distributing to about 24 million people over a 6-month basis period and what have you. So if I get my own 5,000 naira from the government, I think I'll just keep it under my pillow, ready for when the vaccine is ready, so that I don't spend it on. But I'm sure that that 5,000 will likely go to gari, granite, a few vegetables and all that before. By the time the vaccine arrives, the 5,000 naira is gone. So should we distribute this 5,000 naira? Maybe we should just tell everybody, okay, these 24 million Nigerians, this is your own vaccine money. We'll keep it for you. When it comes to how to register, they get it because it's been paid for. We need to find a creative way around it. If there's a negotiation with the Pfizer and BioNTech and Moderna, whatever the vaccine producers, to give it to us as a subsidized rate so that the government pays in. If the whole process is going to be transparent and beneficial, I think we'll all appreciate it. But it's not a function of, oh, we subsidized the vaccine to the tune of 1 trillion naira, so, and you don't see the vaccine, you don't see the money. And then you run into another problem later and say, well, in the budget we made, we subsidize it for X, Y, Z, and the cost of the subsidy is far outweighs the cost of the real cost of the vaccine. So you don't see the cost, you don't see the subsidy, you don't see the vaccine.
Right.
That's a big problem here. How we are going to get out of this quagmire kind of situation which we are already in, I have no idea. But I just hope that somehow fortune and nature will smile on us and help us get over this virus as quickly as we can. Thank you.
The pensioners who are yet to be paid a lot in their arrears are the ones that will be mostly concerned in this case. The elderly, the pensioners, because they haven't been paid there. You have a lot of them who earn around 10,000 naira per month. I mean, the constraint is how to get it to them, as opposed to what we have here in the UK and other advanced markets where things are getting done for them with ease. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contributions this morning. Thanks a great deal, Akintunde Suleiman, research analyst with Greenwich Merchant Bank, and Bosun Omofaye of Frontier Africa Market Reports. I appreciate your thoughts. Thanks a great deal. That's been African opening bell, the Frontier opening bell for Africa markets generally today. And I'm Temple Ashaju. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.